Hello, Daddy! Welcome back to our channel. You are about to watch part 2 of a conversation Samantha and I had about all things Frozen, tour life, and Broadway, because I am currently on the road with the Broadway North American tour of Frozen playing Hans. If you missed part 1, make sure to check it out. And here is part 2 of that conversation. It's a really great talk. Sam does a great job of interviewing, and I said stuff too. So please enjoy.
I think a lot of people probably have questions about, the ins and outs of what a North American tour looks like. But can you just kind of take us through like a typical day in your Frozen tour life?
Yeah, so I'll wake up, I'll get some breakfast, I'll do kind of like Ryan work, whether it's editing for us or doing a stream or answering emails. I'm still taping auditions for other things, so I kind of have my mornings. If it's not a 2-show day, Saturdays and Sundays are 2-show days, and that's pretty much at the theater all day. But if it's just a 1-show day, I'll kind of do my Ryan work in the afternoon. Because it's been Florida and South Carolina in the spring, it's pretty nice out, so I'll always try to spend some time outside, get a walk in, run errands if I have to. I still have to eat and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'll go to the show, the theater. I always show up like insanely early. I like to get a really good deep physical warm up in, especially because I haven't done theater in 2 years because of the pandemic. Like I'm in good shape. I exercise, but the only way to condition for theater is to do theater. And so, I'm kind of conditioning while on the job. And so I really have to make sure I'm getting my stretches in and exercising all of the parts of my body that I use. There's a lot of lifts in this show for Hans, and I don't want to get injured. So I do a long warm up. Then I'll go back to the call board and I'll grab my COVID saliva PCR, because
Yes.
we have to get tested 5 times a week. We had a COVID case in the company like a week ago, and that still happens. There was a show almost 2 weeks ago now when you were in town. We had a cut show, which means that there were more people out than there were swings to cover them. So there were 5 people out and there were only 4 swings. So 2 of the swings had to sort of combine their tracks to create 3 people out of 2, because people were either sick or exhausted or whatever, because COVID is still real.
Yep.
So I'll do my spit test, and that's another thing too. Is you want to have dinner before the show, but you can't eat or drink anything 30 minutes prior to submitting your saliva sample, because then it won't come back as conclusive. And then I'll do fight call 15 minutes before half hour. So me, Mackenzie, and Mason, who plays Kristoff. There's a fake fall onto an ice cart. There's a sword strike, and then there's Anna's punch to Hans at the end. And so we practically go through those just to make sure that those are safe. You never want to rely on muscle memory for a stunt of any kind. So we'll do fight call. Then it's half hour into hair, makeup, microphones, costume, and then go ahead.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, Mr. McCartan.
I hate this.
This is something that tends to surprise a lot of people in the comments of TikToks of Broadway actors doing their own makeup. Like, so when you said hair and makeup, I just wanted to touch on that for a fact that you do your own hair and makeup, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I obviously, except for, well, for the most part, like I know Elphaba has, assistance with the green, but doesn't she even do kind of her like main makeup too? No, Elfie is a full assistance. Checks out.
Elphaba is an extreme example, but different strokes for different folks. I mean, depending on the role, depending on how specific the makeup has to be, wigs. All of those types of things. People's pre-show is different depending on the role that they're playing. But for Fiyero on Broadway, for Hans on Broadway, and now for Hans on the tour, it was doing my own hair and makeup, setting my own microphone. So yeah, and then the unique thing about this show or this track, I should say, is Frozen begins with a prologue. So Frozen begins with young Anna and Elsa explaining the powers, the ice strike of Anna, the removal of her memory, and that whole sequence takes about 20 minutes. And so I get all warmed up for the show, I get into hair, makeup, I get all ready, and then there's 20 minutes before I hit the deck. So usually I'll go to the PT room, the physical therapy room, and I'll grab some light weights and I'll prime the muscles that I'm about to use, because Love is an Open Door is a huge lift number. There's a Juliet, there's a fireman's carry, there's a like swing dance behind the back where Mackenzie actually ends up between my legs. It's a crazy lift number, and so I want to make sure that even though I've warmed those muscles up, they've kind of cooled down. So then I want to prime them one more time before I hit the deck, and then I'm on for First Time in Forever, through Hans of the Southern Isles, Dangerous to Dream, Coronation, Love is an Open Door, The Ice Strike. Then I'm off until the end of Act 1 with a little song, and then I'm off until Hans is bad, basically. So I always say, like, the Hans track isn't so much a marathon for me, it's more like 2 big sprints, but it's a really awesome track.
And what would you say the hardest part of the show is for you in this track?
Love is an Open Door.
Yeah.
It's insane. I mean, Mackenzie and
you're like singing.
Right. We are singing a duet. There's a Broadway caliber expectation of how that sounds. There's a Broadway caliber expectation of how we look when we dance. But there's also a huge acting proponent because we are discovering love for the first time, and so there has to be that like awkward, unsure chemistry, and there are very serious, very advanced lifts that not only are a safety concern, but also are heavily exacerbated by the fact that Mackenzie's coronation dress is 30 pounds and makes her circumference twice, if not 3 times what it would be without it. And so we had to do 2 extra lift calls last week because even though it was fully in our muscle memory, we had done it on Broadway, the number is pretty much the same on tour. It was going really well in rehearsals. It was going really well for our first 2 weeks, but then there was just something that was kind of off, and we just could not figure out how to get my hand around the dress and how to get her in the right position without spinning out. Theater is ever changing, and you have to make it repeatable, and you have to defeat bad habits if you develop them. And like that number is just it's so rewarding, and Mackenzie is such an amazing partner, and if I do say so myself, I think we do a really good job with it, but it is tough.
Considering how hard it is and how many moving parts there are to that number, I mean that aside, you guys do a fantastic job, but when you really get into the nitty-gritty of how complex that number is, it's just insane. You guys absolutely nail it. It's I think it's my favorite number, like, in the show.
Oh, wow.
Because it's so, I mean, it's such an iconic song from the movie. I think, it's something that the audience is really looking forward to.
Yeah.
And so the payoff is just so good. And the chemistry that you and Mackenzie have, even just, like, comedically, is so good. And that, like, sweet spot of kind of awkwardness of like falling in love. Like, is this love at first sight? No, it's manipulation, but you think it is.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, of course. Now, Ryan, I know you only have about 2 weeks left of this tour, and this is going to be a hard question, but what would you say your favorite tour memory is so far?
Okay, I have 2, and one is like really esoteric, but I've been thinking about it a lot, and one is like a lot more specific. I'll start with the specific one. When we travel, our travel day is considered a work day, so we always have that travel day and then another day off. And so when we traveled from Fort Lauderdale to Tampa, it was a 3-hour bus ride, which isn't really that bad. So it kind of felt like we had all day Monday because we weren't slogging through an airport or anything like that. It was just we got on a bus, we were driven to a new hotel, and that was it. So we got all of Monday, and then we then had all of Tuesday as well. As I said before, this company is not only filled with excellent people who have been so welcoming, but I feel that they have gone out of their way to be inclusive, which is a hard thing to expect of people who have already formed their habits, have already made their friends. And so I wouldn't expect that of them. And anytime there is something that's happening, and not like a full cast moment, just like a few people are doing something, there's always like a, hey, a couple of us are going to go out and do this, do you want to come? And I think that speaks volumes of who these people are. And so when I was on the bus on the way to Tampa, one of the members of the company named Zach kind of came up to the front of the bus where I was sitting and was like, hey, like 6 of us are going to Busch Gardens tomorrow, like, and we're just going to spend an obscene amount of money for like the fastest front of the line passes, the all you can eat food package where you can have a 3-course meal every 45 minutes. Like, we're going to go absolutely ham, and we would love for you to join. And we had a riot. We shut down the park. Like, we were some of the last people there. Coincidentally, Brian Shaw, a member of the Frozen Company, who also was a member of the Frozen on Broadway Company, who also worked at Disneyland with me in 2013.
Wow.
Way back when, I know.
Wow.
His partner knew someone who worked at Busch Gardens, and so they were able to get us even more perks. I mean, it was truly a wild day. And like, we did all the rides a bajillion times. It was terrifying. It was amazing. And again, just like it would have been so easy for them to not include me. And it was completely unnecessary for them to add me to their company. And the fact that they did is just something I'm so grateful for. And I had a blast, and it was a nice release. You know, I had been straight into rehearsals, straight into the run, straight into packing up, then leaving Fort Lauderdale. It was my first thing that wasn't work since getting on the plane and coming to the tour in the first place. My more esoteric thing is something that happens every day. And this happened on Broadway too, but I don't think that I had the perspective to notice it because I wasn't coming off of the heels of a global pandemic that took away theater. In the first time in forever, when Anna and Elsa are singing about like, oh my God, we're going to open up the gates, there's this moment in the show where, you know, tell the guards to open up the gates, and these big gates in the back open, and all of us are back there. And so the gates open and the ensemble rushes forward, and then we're in the wings, and Wesselton comes forward, and him and his lackeys go, and then I go and I come down stage, and then Christoph and Sven come down stage, and it's this like entrance moment for everyone, and so we're all back there. And before the gates open, all of our microphones are off, it's dark, there's nothing happening, so we're just like shooting the breeze, we're just talking, we're just normal people doing our job. And because the ensemble enters before I do, and I'm sort of back in the wings, I get to witness every night, I'm going to get emotional, the split-second moment where an ensemble of people go from being regular people to characters in a show. And every night I see it happen. And I think that it's just supercharged because I've done a billion shows. I've been working in theater since I was 8 years old, but I think because of the context we have of losing it, seeing these professional craftspeople just go from shooting the breeze, cracking up, to just locking in and the doors opening and they charge down the stage, seeing it change is indescribably cool.
That's the magic.
Yeah.
The people make the magic of theater.
Yeah, and I specifically didn't call it magic because it isn't. It's skill.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
it is skill.
Yeah, and that's what I mean when I say that it's the people that create the magic.
Yeah.
You know, and you're right. It is a skill. It is a craft, and I bet that's just such a beautiful moment, and how wonderful that you get to be there to witness that.
It's
every
so
time
cool.
it happens.
It's so cool, Sam.
I'm so happy for you that your return to Frozen and your return to Arendelle has just been such a wonderful experience in so many ways, and I know it's been such a whirlwind, but I'm so happy that just like the fruits of your labor are just fully being returned to you.
Thank you for saying that.
Of course. Now, after going through this experience, I know you still have 2 weeks left, and so it's far from over, but it has made me think, is there any other role of yours that you would love to return to, even just for like a 6-week stint?
JD.
Yeah.
I've said this a billion times. This is no like secret that I'm keeping. We're not going to make any headlines here, but like Heathers was one of the coolest things I ever did, and I was in one of the worst places in my entire life when we were doing it. I feel that I'm in one of the best places in my entire life right now. What an honor it would be to deliver that energy to a role I care so much about.
Yeah.
Where I didn't have the capacity to do that before. And also, and I don't judge my past work. That's the worst thing an actor can do. So this isn't coming from a place of judgment. It's coming from a place of pride, because you always want to be growing. I've grown so much since then. And so to apply, however long it's been, 7 years of new craftsmanship to a role that I had no idea would be so iconic and so important to so many people, and has thus become so important to me. The gag of it all. I would love to do that.
That'd be amazing. I mean, truly, like, you've only gotten better, and I absolutely love your performances, JD. So, like, even just as not only a fan and supporter of you, like, that would just be incredible to see.
But like, Hans is Disney JD. Like,
full.
I'm flexing all of those same muscles in this role.
Yeah, and you are fantastic at this. You are absolutely fantastic at the bait and switch bad guy, because you are so charming, so lovable, so easy to like. So you have such a talent for getting the audience on your side instantly, and then just wrecking them when the plot twist happens. Yeah. And you've been the bad guy all along, Yeah. It's a niche, but you do it well.
They're the best roles to play.
Well, those are all the questions I have for you. Obviously, you know that Daddy, our fan base, is incredibly supportive of you, and with their support, they are also very eager to hear what this, Frozen tour life has been like for you. So I'm so glad we got to do this. We got to just sit down and chat about what this experience has been like for you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Like Samantha said at the beginning of this video, this is kind of what you'll be getting for the next few uploads, because we want to keep making content for you, but we are distanced.
Yes.
So thank you for your understanding and for allowing us to adapt. It is our pleasure to continue bringing you content. Hopefully, if you were curious about what it's like to tour with a Broadway show, or what it's like to return to theater after a pandemic, you got some cool information from this. And if not, sorry for boring you.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll bring you more tier lists and smash and pass videos in the future. We love you, Daddy. Thanks so much for watching.